Yay. Hi, Support Fibro friends. We continue to welcome community leaders from around the world. Today, I'm thrilled to invite our special guest, Cynthia from the Disabled Diva. I've been following her blog for some time now, and she's been such an inspiration in my research of new treatments and acceptance of living with chronic illness. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you, and I appreciate you taking the time today to join us. And I've just posted a link to your blog so people can find it directly, and we'll add more details in the description as well. But let's get our Support Fibro friends to get to know you better. Can you tell us a little bit about your health journey?
Sure. So I received 4 diagnoses within a 4-year period. It was like the perfect storm. Even though I had symptoms and pains from them years before, they weren't an everyday thing. They weren't something that was really impacting my life. So I never really went to the doctor. There was also the thing of, it sounded kind of stupid saying, I feel tired and I'm achy. So I just kind of lived with it all until it all came to a head. So in 2001, I was diagnosed with psoriasis. 2003, I had the back-to-back of fibromyalgia and psoriatic arthritis. And then in 2004, endometriosis. It was not just the perfect storm for my diagnosis. Every single one of those conditions just attacked me and destroyed my life. It was not the same. Things just got worse too. I want to say things got better because I had answers and I had all these wonderful doctors. No, things got worse. At that time, there wasn't the support we have now. There wasn't, there were no treatments for the most part. I know there were no medications for fibromyalgia at the time. And my rheumatologist even told me that for psoriatic arthritis, both of them, all he could do was help me with the pain, and that would be it. So as time went on, things got worse, and fibromyalgia became a curse. Not even just a disease or a pain, an illness, whatever, that I felt like I needed to fight. It was one I didn't even want to be associated with anymore, because it became the scapegoat for other problems, endometriosis being one of those. After my hysterectomy, I was still experiencing pain, and when I went back to the surgeon who did it, he said, well, I did my job. It's not my problem anymore. So he blamed it on fibromyalgia. Funny thing is, when I had told him that I had fibromyalgia before my hysterectomy, he told me he didn't think it was a real disease, that it was just made up and that he didn't believe in it. But yet, when I told him I'm still in pain after my hysterectomy, he conveniently believed in it and blamed that on my pain. So without his help, I went on to see 21 surgeons to finally get one who would listen. During that time, I was told the pain was in my head. Or they would look at my chart and say, it's fibromyalgia. I was like, you are kidding me. I had a little knot on my side where you could feel the fallopian tube that he left behind sticking in my sidewall. And I told one surgeon, come over here and touch it. He wouldn't. He stood on the other side of the room, back against the wall. I'm like, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm like, just come touch me. He opened the file. He saw fibromyalgia and was like, nope, it's that. I left every office crying. And I'm like, I told my husband, I'm like, I'm to the point where I need to go see a surgeon who's not connected to our insurance. I need to see someone out of pocket who has no access to my medical records, because nobody was believing me. It became such a curse that I didn't want anyone to even know I had it, because it got in the way of so much. And yet I wasn't even getting care for it.
That's extremely frustrating.
And I know, and it wasn't until I started telling my story that I realized how many more people were in the same boat. How many more people are dealing with serious health issues and having this diagnosis, which is just as serious. It is painful. It is debilitating. But it's being used as a scapegoat for so many other things because we're too hard to figure out.
And then is this what inspired you to start your blog? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
It did. So when I was first diagnosed, like I said, it was in 2003. There wasn't support. There wasn't Facebook. So I didn't have, easy access to groups or to the chronic community at all. And I did get online, of course, when I first got the diagnosis, because I'd never heard of it. And of course, there was no good news. It was all bad news on how horrible people's lives were. And it was so depressing. So I got offline because I couldn't take it. Then I did start looking for support groups or even other people with chronic illness again until about 2010. I had joined Facebook, but I hadn't been looking in those years prior, only because I had met a couple people like through my church that had it. And so I felt like, okay, I had that connection, and that was good to know a couple people who knew what it was like, who knew that I wasn't going to be cured tomorrow. And that was great. But when then we moved to California, I had lost all my personal connections around me. So I didn't have anyone that knew. And so I was like, okay, I need to start looking. I didn't go onto Facebook because I didn't want to offend friends and family with talk, because I know at that point I couldn't hide conversations. So I went to Twitter, and I found this world that I didn't know existed of people just like me. And it was amazing. And as you can tell, I'm talkative. And so being confined to 180 characters when I wanted to have a conversation killed me. So that's when I started blogging, because I was like, that gave me the avenue to get my words out, but still share it on Twitter because I could just share the link. And that's how I got started.
That was fantastic. I wonder if we ever connected. Did you ever connect to any fibromyalgia awareness on MySpace at all? I've been
myself. I wasn't on MySpace. My son was. I'm old.
Well, I was doing a fibromyalgia awareness account in MySpace back then too. So this was because I got my I think it was 2003. So like I was telling people, there's no online social media information, and people with fibromyalgia for juveniles were not even supposed to get diagnosed. So it's like, how did we find resources back then? So it was different and unique when social media came up, and Twitter, was one of them, where you could just search and you can start conversations with people you didn't know and ask them questions or like say that you went through it. So I'm glad you started your blog, and so people can like learn more and you can write more content.
Well, that's it. And that's what it just grew and turned into something that I never expected it to. I thought it was just going to be an extension of what I wanted to say on Twitter. And through the years, it grew. And then I think it was early 2016 when Julie Ryan reached out to me, who you're having on tomorrow, to join, chronic illness bloggers. And that's where it just really took a whole new turn. And I've been loving the ride. And I love that I can, share the good, the bad, the ugly, but also what helps. And that, yeah, it sucks, but you can learn to live with it and create a life that you like. Just gonna be different.
Right. And we appreciate Julie starting that network, because it connected us all together and really created a voice for more bloggers to get involved. Because I mean, just hearing from everyone, you guys are sharing what's really going on. And sometimes when you read stuff from doctors, I'll say sometimes, like online, it can have this condescending tone, and it's like, oh, this is what you need to do. Like, go do this. And it's still that expert voice, but it's great to hear from bloggers and hearing a real voice and someone who's going through it right now and sharing.
Yeah. And it's funny because I said, when you go from thinking you're all alone and nobody understands, and the next thing you know, you find this community. And I have to laugh because sometimes I think I've forgotten through these last couple of years that we really are a small community. But because it feels, again, and you go from being, it's just me, nobody else has this, to, oh my God, now I know hundreds and thousands of people with the same illness, with the same struggles, who do get it, who know my pain. It feels like you're part of this giant world. but we really are. We're just a little speck out there, but
well, you're really helping people too, because I want to make sure to acknowledge your work, because I've always been reading what you've been sharing, and you had a lot of great tools and tips that you write about, and that acceptance. I think there was one on mobility devices and enjoying Disneyland, and I was always so scared. I was like, I don't want to walk out there and like, I have to accept this part when we go to amusement parks. So, I mean, thank you for all of that and sharing that with us. And I have my Oscar here, so shout out to you. I know.
Got one right here. Whoops. Oh my gosh, I can turn mine back on. It went off.
Oh no, do
There
you
we go.
want to talk a little bit about Oscar and give them a quick plug?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So anybody who hasn't followed my blog, if you have, you're probably sick of me talking about it. But this changed my life. And I don't say it because I'm an affiliate. I don't say it because any other reason than it really has, especially when it comes to my fibromyalgia and psoriatic arthritis pain. So the pharmaceutical drugs that are out there for fibromyalgia and everything else, okay, I can't take them. I have been drugs have failed to help with me. I am that 0.00001 whatever person who either has the severe reactions or the opposite reaction. All right, you get it. So yeah, sleeping pills. Oh no, manic and awake for like 4 days. Can't do them. So I can't. Because of that, I had to turn to natural and alternative type things. The first thing I did, which was in 2013, I began medicating with cannabis. And that was wonderful because I was finally getting, a good night's sleep, where I wasn't sleeping more than 4 hours a night beforehand. And I wasn't reaching a restorative level of sleep. My body, and with fibromyalgia, if your body does not get a chance to restore or to recover from the pain you've brought onto it, or it's brought on, it just compounds and it keeps building and building and building, and then it spreads. And that was something I discovered long before, when my body decided to mimic symptoms of a stroke. And it was all because my pain was unmanaged and I just kept pushing to live my life like I didn't have fibromyalgia. And it led to a 4-day hospital stay with no answers, other than I displayed every symptom of a stroke. And that was terrifying. So cannabis was wonderful. I was starting to be able to do more. But it was that, oh my God, combined with cannabis, it's been amazing. The last couple of years, up until this latest endo flare, I have been able to do things that I didn't think I'd ever be able to do again. And I can say, read my blog posts about it, people. Look into it yourself. It's a game changer. And just understand, it's not like popping a pill or smoking a joint. You're not going to have instant relief, especially on long-term pain. The pain I had in my lower back, I was told I would never be without it. 4 months of constant treatment every day on it, and it disappeared. So you have to be patient, but it's amazing. I will never live without this thing.
I'm so glad to hear, and you make great points with this, because it's almost like it's a combination of different things and tools that we have to find to add to us, and each of us are so different, and especially those of us who react terribly to medications. And it's not being anti-med, it's just having horrible experiences of sleepwalking and hallucinating with those treatments, that it's just something, it doesn't work for us. So now we have to turn a different direction. And it's difficult when you're talking to doctors about this, because you're trying to figure it out. That's why I appreciate hearing from all our community leaders and bloggers, because I mean, you're going through it yourself and then sharing as a community. So as patients, we can empower ourselves to learn more and then share this with our doctors, and hopefully, but sometimes I feel like we're trial and error all the time.
Yeah, and it is that's I look at my life, and the whole chronic life has been always reevaluating, and then okay, let's make these changes for this, and understanding that that's going to happen again in a few months or in a few years. Where I'm at today, I have no idea where I'm going to be tomorrow. I don't know what my life is going to be like 6 months from now. I have no idea where I'm going to be at in a year. Like I said, 2 years ago, I was doing great. I was walking 20, 30,000 steps a day. Again, stuff I never thought I'd be able to do. I can't do that right now. Right now, because of my abdominal pain from endo, one walk up and down my street a day is what I'm able to do. That's my life. I have to accept it, reevaluate, reassess, make changes, deal with it. When it changes again, go through the process again.
Well, did you have any tools that you put together to sort of document this process? Because I know as a biohacker, I get, I really had to document everything because it is trial and error. Did you have any tips for that?
I am a journaling addict. I love to journal. I will track food because, okay, when it came, I always try to push, oh, you need to be gluten-free, or you need to be this, you need to be that. Okay, well, I would try each one. And doctors are even saying, okay, well, you need to try this diet or try this one and eliminate this, food group or whatever. Nothing would work. It's like, okay, there may have been a little improvement here or there, but then next week it was like no difference. So I was like, it was frustrating because not one thing was working. So I started writing down everything I ate and everything I drank. Along with it, though, I would also rate my pain level from morning, noon, and night and watch it through the days. I could see when I was having sugar hangovers. I could see when, like after a day of processed foods, I could see a pattern started forming. And then I also would start digging at ingredients. So I learned I am not intolerant to gluten or have a gluten allergy or anything, but I do have a problem with high fructose syrup. I cannot have it. Let's see. Iodized salt. I will break out in blisters. So all these little things, because I'm allergic to iodine. So all these different things we've learned, like with citric acid, if it's high on like the lemon side, I can't have it. I'm allergic to lemons. All these things that just would not normally, you wouldn't think of. I even had a doctor who didn't believe my lemon allergy until he gave me a solution to drink for a test that didn't say it had on it, but I could tell the minute I took a sip, my throat swelled up, and I told her, I'm like, lemon. And so I had to stay there for 3 hours, and they doped me up with Benadryl until I could make sure I was okay to drive. But so they don't take these things seriously. But that's what I had to do. So I go through and I would watch for patterns, and I would go beyond food groups and dig down to the ingredients. And it's been, like you said, it's so much fun to discover these things that are making you hurt, and knowing that, okay, I can eliminate that. I can avoid fructose syrup. I just have to be vigilant about it. But I can do it.
Right. And the different aspects of that, especially if like you don't get as good sleep, that may change it and make, more hypervigilant to some of the food. So it's complicated to strategize what to do, or just trying to put
I track the weather.
Oh, I know.
I have noticed in the past 5 years a sense I will get knocked down with a migraine from stupid super moons and an eclipse, lunar or solar, doesn't matter. They will knock me out. But this has helped with that because I get swelling around my spine from those. And so I'll run this on it. And I will have like a dull migraine, but I won't get knocked out to the point that I used to. It's crazy.
I didn't even get to tracking that part yet. I mean, I got stuck on tracking the hormone stuff because that's a whole nother aspect of what's going on.
That's a whole nother level, but you have to. It's like it sounds like it's overwhelming at first, but when you get used to doing it and writing all these things down and tracking them, it just becomes second nature that even during the day, if you're not like now, I don't write it down every day now, but I know I can tell the next day if I feel like crap, I look back, I'm like, okay, yep, I had that yesterday. I know it. I know what contributed. Or, okay, super moon, I got it. It's you know.
Well, and you've added some Facebook groups as well. Is this conversations you have in there too? I mean, I just love the way you're outspoken as well with the title.
Yes, I'm trying to whittle down to one group because it's for one person. It's too much to take on, and as much as I love it, the interaction stuff, it is a lot. Not just to maintain the group and to get the conversations going, but the heaviness of the emotions of everybody. You know, you take it on. So I'm trying to whittle down to the one group, and then get that going. Get it more active again. I had to take a little break.
Well, it can be a lot.
It is. It is.
Well, and that's like, I think one thing is just what advice would you have for other community leaders and advocates who are either starting a blog or starting a group? What would you tell them?
Okay, if you're going to start a group, make sure you have really good emotional support, because it will drain you. And it's not to talk bad about it, because it's not. It's the beast of the nature. It's just the nature of the beast. We're all sharing our feelings. We're sharing our pain, physical and emotional, and you need support with that on your own outside of the group as well. As for a blog, I know a lot of people get frustrated because they don't have a large following right away, or they feel nobody's reading it. Just accept that. It's okay. Again, like I said earlier, we feel like when we discover this community that it's huge and that there's, this giant world of us. And yes, there are, but in the grand scheme of it all, we are just this little corner of the world. So there's that. And it takes time. It takes time to build trust from your readers. It takes time for them to connect with you, and just to be patient. Be yourself, share your story, and just be real and be patient. Be patient with your efforts.
Are you finding that you need to set some boundaries on time that you spend on social media at all?
I have had to set major boundaries because no, if you're not careful, it takes over your life. So no, I've had to set major boundaries and limit certain hours of the day where I'll allow myself on whatever things. And sometimes I'll just take a break. I was not thrilled about this latest endo flare that struck last November, and it hit me hard, not just physically with pain, but emotionally. I was not prepared to take so many steps back in my life, and I was too depressed to deal with the group. I was too depressed to even want to communicate with anybody online, and that included friends and family. So I took like a 3-month sabbatical, and it felt so good. But I'm back.
Well, and I think that's why it's like having patience, or having the readers and viewers having patience for all of us, because we're going through all this at the same time.
We don't get back to you if we don't answer a message right away. It's not personal at all. It's that we have to care for ourselves as well.
Yeah, and we definitely appreciate that understanding. And I know you were tweeting out on Fibromyalgia Awareness Day all the tweets and hosting conversations. So it was definitely fun to join you there. And I wanted to highlight one of your blogs, and I'll post it in the chat too, so that people can read it for Fibromyalgia Awareness Month goals. And it's there for people to read right now. But what stood out most to you on what the fibromyalgia community needed?
To be taken seriously. And that, except from friends, from family, from the medical community. On the medical community, stop trying to slap medications that helped other illnesses with a certain symptom on us. Focus some research really on us. Friends and family, we love you, but stop trying to fix us, and understand we will not be healed, but we can live better lives. I feel like it's being taken seriously is the biggest. As an advocate, I see where social media is fabulous for us reaching those who have been diagnosed. We're leaps and bounds with that, especially from where, when I was first diagnosed. Where we've come has been amazing. But I see we still aren't reaching people outside of us. So it's like those who don't have it, someone's diagnosed, their friends and family have no clue about it. They've never heard of it or have no comprehension of what it is. And I think we need to somehow find a way to reach beyond our little walls.
Well, and I liked your idea about interviewing the doctor ahead of time. I was like, oh, I'm going to chime in on that one to see. But it's hard when you have to go out of network and then you're looking at some of the other providers and stuff like that, and just want to, before you pay, like, can I have an interview with you?
Well, exactly. Like I said, those 2 years I had to see 21 surgeons. I had to pay 21 surgeons to tell me that I belonged in a psych ward when I was actually, my insides were ripping apart. I'm like, it's like, yeah, I would just love to be able to talk to someone, because if you don't take fibromyalgia seriously, or you don't take any of these things seriously, I'm not going to come see you. I want to see a doctor who will listen to me.
I know it's frustrating because I remember paying out of pocket to see an ND, and she's like, well, and the first thing, so you prepay. And one of the first things out of her mouth was, that fibromyalgia is not a real diagnosis. And I was like, oh my God. I was like,
give me my money
back. Can I save this appointment? And I'm just sitting there, and it's tough. Oh, Michelle has a question. How do you recommend doing that? So I guess maybe educating your family and people outside of the community.
And so that is the question, and that I think that patient leaders, like all of us, do need to get together more and talk more. What can we do? Because I'll be honest, I don't know, outside of not keeping it our dirty little secret, and talking to people about it who don't have it. It's like in the beginning, it's like I only talked to people who had it, and then I didn't leave Twitter, but I expanded from Twitter and decided, okay, it's time for friends and family to know, so I'll hop on Facebook too. And there are so many patients who have even told me that, yeah, they don't talk to other people about it, because again, they are feared that they're not going to be taken seriously. But outside of that, I don't know what else we can do.
Well, it was very freeing to sort of come out and say I have fibromyalgia, because I'd always hid it for a long time. And then people were just like, why are you starting a nonprofit for fibromyalgia? And I was like, because they were like, okay, so these were clients. Now I inundate my Facebook profile with fibromyalgia information. So you can get away from it, but I don't expect everyone to do that as well. I think we need to have more patient conversations. And actually, Cynthia, if you haven't connected with Michelle, you definitely need to. And she does a lot of work too with the Arthritis Foundation. So,
oh, awesome.
And other organizations that have, been supporting everyone. You do some extra advocacy work as well, correct?
Yes. So yeah, I'm also a patient advocate for psoriatic arthritis. I am on several patient advisory boards. Yeah, that's the terminology I'm looking for. And again, this is where it's really frustrating with fibro. We are not respected either enough. I don't know what. Nobody wants to hear from us. I'm like, you don't know what you're missing, people. But psoriatic arthritis, that one is taken seriously. And so I am on a lot of boards for that. I would love to see some patient advisory boards crop up for fibromyalgia. That would be amazing, because what we're doing on those others for like arthritis is we're giving the patients a voice and giving their thoughts and their experiences. We're sharing those with the pharmaceutical companies, with the medical community. And I feel like we're really lacking that with fibromyalgia.
Well, that's something I would love to work with you on and trying to build, because we put our stamp down with like fibromyalgia. We're going to do this. So,
Right?
I mean, you and I have waited a long time to like keep justifying that it's real. I still get those questions and comments. So I'm just like, really? Really?
Yep. And there's times I won't lie. There are, to this day, there's times where I'm like, is it really real? Did they just give me this? But then I'm like, no. There are symptoms that stand out in it from my other conditions. It is real, but you begin to doubt yourself as well.
Oh, there's definitely a lot of doubt with that, and especially with like, and just trying to figure out we're going to be pushing for more treatment and medical education. So it's hearing from leaders like yourselves is important to us, and what you're finding out, because my situation, my experience might be different, and then that's why we feel it's important to share from other people.
Exactly.
And I mean, thank you again for all the treatments information too, and just sharing with being more open. How did you get used to, I guess, so Disneyland. So how, do you have any advice a little bit for managing some of these amusement parks? Because I'm terrified. That's a lot of people. I'm like,
Okay, so let me tell you about a story. So I raised my kids Disney. My son, he's 30 years old now, but from his 3rd birthday on, I have taken him to Disneyland for his birthday. At the time when we first started, we lived out of state, so it was our annual trip. We would make a vacation out of his birthday every year. And at that time, I was physically capable of doing it all on foot, no problem. Then, after my diagnosis, things got a little rough. Well, we had taken like a 5-year sabbatical because we had moved even farther. Then I had my daughter, and I wanted to wait till she turned 3. Well, it was like it all felt within that perfect storm of the year after every diagnosis. And we get there, even though I have all these things, I'm prepared to vacation like I used to. I figured, well, I've got the stroller to help me with balance or anything. I'll be fine. And I've got the baby with me, so I don't have to go on all the fast rides. Our first night, my son and I decided to stay late, and my husband took the baby back to the hotel. We enjoyed a cream cheese pretzel, Mickey pretzel. I'm not allowed to have them anymore. The next morning, I woke up with appendicitis. I had to be rushed to the hospital in Anaheim, even though we lived in Arizona. I had to be rushed to Anaheim General for an emergency appendectomy. So I had my first time in a wheelchair at Disneyland, because I refused. When I got out of the hospital the next day, I told my husband, we're not going home. We're extending the trip to make up for the day and a half or the 2 days that I missed in the park. So we extended the trip. We had a wheelchair delivered to the hotel. I had my pain pills, and that was our first array into the park with a disability. Trying to figure out getting around with a wheelchair is not easy. Whether you're pushing it or you're the one doing it yourself, it is tough. I always thought that place was flat when I was on my feet. It is not flat.
no.
There are hills and there are bumps. And let me tell you, 2 days post appendectomy, you do not want to be over the cobblestone and fantasy. I wanted to cry. I was like, what am I doing? So
But you definitely had to enjoy that trip.
Oh my God. But we did. We had a great time. We learned a lot that first time. Then when we went back, it was farther into my illnesses and stuff, and I was having to use mobility aids. And I was like, okay, well, let's do this. But I was not happy about it. I was pissed that I had to do it with a wheelchair. And I started seeing more and more issues. Then we moved out here and got our annual passes. And I'm like, I've got to learn how to make this work, because this is my happy place. This is where I love to be. And I'm going to find a way to make it work. And so every visit, I would figure out things, and I look at every single attraction and every land, and I'm like, what are potential issues that would make somebody say, I don't want to come back? You know, can a wheelchair go over here? Can they fit there? Can they reach the food counter if they're in a wheelchair? Or how long will they have to wait for a restroom? And where are the best restrooms for, you know, people who are using mobility aids or whatever? All these little things, and what rides are easy to get on and off of if you have a mobility issue or pain. And so I would look at all these things, and then I started sharing them online, and some people were like, "No, that's really good information." And I was like, "I guess it is." So like, well, also in the park, people would, of course, they'd see me in my wheelchair, and so they'd come up to me, and then they would ask me some of these questions. So I'm like, "There's a need for this." It's one person, she was in tears, and she had been there all week. She hadn't gone on any rides because she didn't know what she could go on. And I was like, "Oh, honey, I wish I would have talked to you before you came, because I could have told you everything you could have gone on." And that's when I realized there is a need for that. And that's why I do put that information also on my blog, even though it seems like it's kind of off topic, but it's not.
No.
Even though it's specialized to Disneyland, it really has helped a lot of people to enjoy the park despite their disability of any sort.
Oh, it did. And I mean, you inspired me to actually do a test run at Universal, because I had gone with family friends and I was having no fun at that point. And so my boyfriend's like, "I think we need to get you a wheelchair." And I was like, "No, I can do this." But then I read your blog and I was like, okay, this will help me make this more enjoyable for everyone around me too.
Yes.
So we went and we tested it at a day in the middle of the day. So I tried to get it where it's during the week. And so just kind of trying to test it. But I'm glad that you put that information out there, because then we can be okay with doing these things and enjoying ourselves.
And that's the other thing too, is don't let anybody else make you feel bad about it. I know there in the beginning, it used to sting every time somebody would walk by and whisper, or especially if they saw you get up out of your wheelchair to go use the restroom. "Oh, she can walk." Well, you know, little things like that. And until you build that thick skin, it gets to you. But then you got to remember, you're not hurting anyone. You're not taking advantage of anyone. The handicapped do not get special treatment. If anything, our visit takes a lot of work and effort for us to have a good time and to be able to enjoy ourselves with our mobility aids and stuff, because it's not easy. And we're not getting on rides faster. We're not, we're not getting pushed to the front of the line. We're not hurting anybody. We're not taking away from anybody else's experience. All we're doing is enhancing ours.
Right. And we really ask for some empathy from other people, because it's tough because you aren't seen sometimes. So you really got that experience. And I was like, Mike's like, "Don't move people out of the way." I was like, I'm going to run them over. I don't know.
Well, ask my husband and my daughter. It takes time to get used to pushing somebody as well. We clipped a few heels, people's heels in the beginning, but they've gotten really good.
So it takes some practice, is what I've noticed too. It's just, like you said, building a thicker skin, because you will get some random commentary. But we can enjoy it, and we don't have to, not go, or just, I know I was just,
because for so many years, that's how I felt. It's like, okay, well, I have these illnesses, and if I can't survive the whole day out like I used to, then I don't deserve to be out. That's not it.
right. Or we would pass on these things. I mean, even if we can't necessarily ride all the rides, like there are still aspects that we can enjoy.
Exactly. Yep.
And then helping our family and being acceptant of it. So, I mean, it's great conversation. Shout out to Joe. I know he says hello. And Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. So as we close out, how can our support Fibro friends connect with you?
Okay, I am on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Oh, and LinkedIn. Everything's either Cynthia Covert or the Disabled Diva.
Okay, and how would they join your group or Facebook group?
There's a link on my Facebook page. I also believe I will link somewhere on my blog. I'm so bad. You know how it is when you're focused, like lately I've been focusing on a certain area of fixing up my blog and cleaning areas up. other areas kind of get forgotten about.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, but no, you get the link is definitely on my Facebook page.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for being a great warrior and advocate for our community as well. And I know we talked about it behind the scenes of doing more conversations about endometriosis. I know our community will appreciate that, since I know there's a big overlap with fibromyalgia.
Yes, big.
So we'll have to set up a roundtable with that. But do you have any other closing remarks you want to leave us with before we leave?
Just this. You won't get your old life back, but you can create a life that you can be happy with and that you can have fun with. So don't give up.
Right. We'll never give up, and you're not alone in all this fight. Support Fibro friends. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful to connect with you. I'm realizing that we're only about an hour away from each other physically, and now it's like I'm bummed out. I needed to utilize that and potentially go through. Maybe you should have a Disneyland training day for some of us.
That would be great. There we go.
Our first day in like training day with you.
That would be amazing.
Maybe we can start out at downtown Disney first, so we get can get a little horn, honk honk, or we're like, that would be amazing to do. So I think we have to implement that post COVID. So let's get that going.
That sounds good to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all our Support Fibro friends for tuning in. Join us tomorrow. We're going to be joined by Julie Ryan. You know her from Counting My Spoons, and she's connected all of us together too from the Chronic Illness Bloggers Network. But she has been on the road with RV and us, so RV with us. So she's going to talk about her experience. So thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.